In this one, I'll be exploring the anatomy of the ASMIN further and showing how they are a part of or support the Biodigital Convergence, and some freedom fighters who are part of the ASMIN, as well as something called Landscape of Nations. But I'll start off with talking about something called the Kinakwii and then FANA. You guys will learn what these acronyms are as well as I proceed through the video. So, the Alliance of Indigenous Nations started in Ontario, currently 2022, and over a dozen treaty signatories, it says. So basically, it's like an umbrella with all these fake native groups, if you will. They use the term indigenous because indigenous is a term used in UNDRIP, the United Nations Declarations for Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and allots all these land and resource rights to quote-unquote indigenous people, but does not define that word. So there you have it. And then it says the organization is an outgrowth of the sovereign citizen movement. So that term sovereign citizen is really like a contradiction in and of itself, because to be a citizen is the exact opposite of sovereignty. However, this term is thrown out there through social engineering and means of labeling people who talk about things such as the fraud of the birth certificate in and of itself, and how it's attached to something called the Sestu KV Trust, and different things such as your driver's license, and that are attached to this trust that was created in your name upon your birth. So, with this being said, they tend to use like groups like the ASMIN, which stands for Initiative Ex-Aleutian and Métis Indigenous Nation, and others that are, under the web or umbrella of the Alliance of Indigenous Nations. They tend to talk about these things that I've just addressed, like the birth certificate, Sister KV Trust, and such like that, but they put their own spin on things, where essentially they're using UNDRIP and that sort of a thing to assert their quote-unquote sovereignty, if you will, and also using labels such as indigenous to do that. So, in and of itself, the term sovereign citizen is really just social engineering through that of like counterterrorism think tanks and such like that, and is carried on to like police forces and military and such like that, just labeling people based off of certain things that they might say here and there. So yeah, the ASMIN and Kinakwii are part of this Alliance of Indigenous Nations, and there are various other nations as well. And so the Kinakwii Nation, essentially it says it came out of Laval, Quebec, and of course it mentions that it's a founding member of the Alliance of Indigenous Nations, changed its name from Métis and non-status Kinakwii Nation to Kinakwii Nation, private sovereign nation in and around 2022, and their website founded by William Allen Baldwin of the Baldwin family, Grand Chief of the Great Circle, and John of the Maskell family, Chief Protector. And it's also connected directly to the ASMIN. So we're going to go a little bit over who William Allen of the Baldwin family is eventually. So just to read, Kinakwii was founded in 2004. It served Canada with a Declaration of Nationhood in 2008. This was followed in July 2010 with its filings of its notices and constitution to Canada and other major world organizations. So at the opening of the tribunal on January 8th, 2019, before I arrived, Bogue, which they're referring to Glenn Bogue, who goes by the name Spirit Warrior, attempted to have counsel for the LSO removed because he'd been convicted of treason by an imaginary court called the Ottawa Police, and to try and stop the hearing, they actually attended, and then had his client, Grand Chief Buffalo Eagle, whose real name is William Allen Baldwin, come forward and try to order the tribunal chair to leave because she was trespassing on unceded territory, and so on and so forth. Bogue claims to be a late-in-life non-status Métis and wears a Métis sash based on his membership in the Kinakwii Nation, which is described as an online rent and indigenous identity scam run by William Allen Baldwin, or Grand Chief Buffalo Eagle. So where I see this name Grand Chief Buffalo Eagle we see here, and this is a public notice that was published in 2023 in the Canadian Trucking magazine ran by David McKenzie, and you have Gordon Berry's name on here under settler or indigena, and it's interesting to use the word indigena, it's just Latin for indigenous, right? Who he claims not to be ASMIN, but he's associated with Grand Chief Buffalo Eagle, otherwise known as William Baldwin, so he's associated with the Kinakwii, and I'm sure some of these others as well are also questionable in terms of their bloodlines, genetics, not sure if they're actually native. And then you also have this Chief Little Wolverine here, who is not a real chief, whose name I've known him going by Joseph Frank, Joseph Nixon, and also Dominic. So I'm not sure what his real name is, but his signature is here. You have Gordon Berry's, and then so far you also have this Grand Chief Buffalo Eagle, or William Allen Baldwin. I've not been able to find a picture of him, but what is essentially interesting, so this is Gordon, and this is his friend, Sean Bradley, who goes by the name Iron Crow. So in that public notice in the Trucker magazine, people can just pause the video and look at the image if they want. What happens is there was a white square flag idea that was put into that, where people would be flying that, and I also talked about white square flags in my previous video if people want to check that out. So the picture was first shown to me in a meeting of the Save the Children convoy that I got into, where it was discussed people, like different politicians and such, would be arrested at different locations such as Parliament, the Department of Defense, Privy Council, and more. But funny enough, they actually never mentioned Policy Horizons, which is the face of the Biodigital Convergence in Canada. So it was mentioned basically, so Veterans for Freedom came out and leaked this plan apparently. Yet it was Sean Bradley here whose voice was on the leak, and Sean Bradley is friends with Gordon Berry, who was a face of the Save the Children convoy. Now, how does that make sense? Well, this leak was fake and was really all part of this plan, if you will, because this all mirrors Marcus Ray's plan back in 2022. Was quite similar to the Save the Children convoys, where he was talking about having trials in the street for these politicians and such like that. And also, as well, he mentioned his plans consisted of ex-police and ex-military. Well, Veterans for Freedom are ex-military, so there you have it. And so Gordon, like I said, was part of the Save the Children convoy. He is friends with Marcus Ray, also friends with Sean Bradley or Iron Crow, and Sean Bradley or Iron Crow or whatever was the guy on the leak. So tell me how that actually makes sense. Anyway, I'm going to move forward now, and we're going to get into FANA, which is the Federation of Aboriginal Nations of the Americas. And so it says, after months of deliberation and dealing with variants of this thing here, I won't be saying that because I want this video to remain on YouTube. On February 12, 2022, in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, the member nations of FANA, its allies, and the Grand Chief, Allen Baldwin White Buffalo Eagle of the Kinakwii Sovereign Confederacy, signed the official International Indigenous Nation-to-Nation Treaty of Commerce and Trade. The ITCT folded in two other signed FANA treaties, the Indigenous Treaty of Peace and Friendship and the Indigenous Treaty of Health and Wellness, which was renamed the Treaty of Montauk. So here we have a direct relationship to the Kinakwii and this Allen Baldwin to FANA. I've not yet, like I said, found a picture of Allen Baldwin, but if anybody wants to find anything like that or leave anything in the comments to assist me, that would be greatly appreciated, and people can question me as well, of course, in the comments, and I'll do what I can to diligently get back to you. It says, only those chiefs of the member nations of FANA who lived in Rhode Island were present. All other member nations and its allies were attending virtually along with family and friends because of this particular thing over here. Now on May 6, 2022, FANA filed a constructive and public notice regarding the signing of the International Indigenous Treaties of Commerce and Trade and Health and Wellness with the state of Rhode Island. You'll notice that within the constructive and public notice is the announcement of the ceremonial appointment of this Judge Lord Robert Orville Thomas as the first to POW, I'm not sure what that is, and Lord Chief Justice of the Paramount Court of the FANA Intertribal Court System to the International Criminal Court for the Federation of Aboriginal Nations of the Americas. We're going to go a little bit over this Robert Orville Thomas as well, because I mentioned him in my previous video, attached to something called the First Republic Registrar Foundation, which actually trickles its way up to the Rothschild family. So, the story behind this historical signing of the ITCT and its significance will be covered in an article written by Principal Chief of the Sand Hill following this article, and so on and so forth. So, to move forward here, just to give some visuals of people here, this is the lawyer who I spoke about last video and who I just mentioned, Robert Orville Thomas, and then you have Dr. Ronald Yanaguska Holloway, who is the Principal Chief of the Sandhill Band of Lenape and Cherokee Indians, and the Minister of International Affairs and FANA's Ambassador to the United Nations. So, we're going to be talking about some of these individuals here. So, this is Robert Orville Thomas, to read about him. Currently a consultant for several law firms in the U.S., Europe, Middle East, and the U.K. Areas of law Professor Thomas is proficient include and not limited to criminal law, corporate law, immigration law, and human rights law. Having worked in the public and private sector with several government officials, he's had several appointments, and including sitting as Judge Chief Justice for the Indigenous Cherokee Nation in the United States. He's also a consultant to this clean energy group named Drenel, advising on the Green Energy Initiative, which is being implemented in Africa, Asia, and Europe. Terms like green energy, clean energy, and such like that really are probably referring to smart technology or something relating to the biodigital convergence in and of itself. I have not yet looked into Drenel, though. 2017, Professor Thomas was appointed as a notary and certified sovereign underwriter under the section of the First Republic Registrars at International Court of Justice and International Criminal Court. So yeah, the First Republic Registrars really reaches its way up to the Rothschild family, and they're also tied in with other quote-unquote indigenous nations, if you will, and as well, they support the use of the blockchain as well, so they're also part and part working toward the Convergence Agenda. In 2018, Professor Thomas was appointed as a judge for these two courts I previously mentioned, and he was named head of legal affairs for them, dealing with the financial sector for historical asset and redemption. He was appointed as a UN ambassador for Woolme International in the capacity of legal expert attached to the Geneva office, and he was also appointed a UN ambassador to HOTAC Security as head of the legal department, where he was charged with overseeing matters of international security. And he's a member of the International Association of Arbitration and the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives. He holds an LLM Master's in International Law and also a PhD in International Law. So there we have Orville Thomas, and then now we're going to be talking about Ronald Yanaguska Holloway, who is the ambassador, who is an ambassador to the United Nations. So recognized over the past few years, been reporting on significant events surrounding globally recognized indigenous entity known as FANA. The latest press release was dated February 16th, 2023. It was about International Indigenous Historical Judiciary Treaty being signed in Providence, Rhode Island. And I mentioned the above article as people need to understand that FANA is involved in many things while I'm reporting on one of its events. It's not unusual for FANA to be working on the different needs of indigenous peoples domestically and internationally, while simultaneously writing and signing historical treaties and or contracts between FANA and different indigenous nations or tribes, as well as between FANA and non-indigenous organizations. What was not mentioned in the article released on February 16th, 2023 was that another historical event had taken place days before February 13th, and on that date, FANA's Minister of International Affairs, which is Ronald Yanaguska Holloway of the Sandhill Band of Lenape and Cherokee Indians, was appointed FANA's ambassador to the United Nations. The appointment occurred after 9 months of discussion between FANA and the UN as to what Ambassador Holloway's appointment would entail. These meetings had occurred during the same period as the international treaties were being finalized for the January 28, 2023 meeting. UN has done its due diligence, including a thorough investigation into FANA and Principal Chief Holloway. Based upon the findings of the investigation, the UN appointed Holloway as FANA's ambassador and granted him permanent NGO credentials. He also received the ECOSOC badge, which is the highest recognition a person can achieve within the United Nations, which is not representing a country. The duties will be multifaceted. World's indigenous nations or tribes often turn to the United Nations for funding. It will be his task to assist and procure a feasible aid package to meet the needs of those seeking assistance from the United Nations. He's also representing FANA's interests on the world stage, and will be expanding FANA's domestic and international relationships, as well as attending expert mechanisms globally to ensure FANA's awareness and input on key issues, which in turn will be used to issue in crafting domestic and international policies for FANA. So, going to just read about Ronald Yanaguska Holloway ever so briefly here. He stands at 6 foot 5 inches, and with his broad build is a bear of a man, but behind his imposing physical stature, a soft-spoken voice, effervescent personality that put people at ease. As chairman of the Sandhill Band of the Lenape Cherokee tribe, Holloway is leading its struggle to reclaim what he said are its historic land, water, and hunting rights in New Jersey. That struggle led him last February to file a lawsuit against the state alleging illegal seizure of lands, breach of duties, and attempted, this word here. What he wants most when the fight is over, he told the Jewish Standard last month, is to see a place our tribe can call home. So, and then Holloway is proud of his Native American heritage. The Sandhill are the oldest indigenous tribe in New Jersey, he said, and among its history of warriors and leaders, though Holloway may be unique, he is also a member of another tribe known for its longevity, the Tribe of Israel. As closely tied as he is to his Native American tribe's leadership and heritage, Holloway's convictions have been shaped by his family and dual heritage, which may seem at first glance at odds, given the polytheistic nature of Native American beliefs in Judaism's steadfast monotheism, but Holloway has spent a lifetime meshing them to become the man he is today. And links will be in the description if people want to go over things in more depth than I am. There's just a lot of material to cover, so I'm not going to be reading every aspect of every article I post. So, after graduating from high school at age 17, Holloway enlisted in the Marines, and after training in Japan, he was shipped to the demilitarized zone in South Korea, where he ended up serving as the Hebrew lay leader on his base. With the help of a rabbi in Japan and his own limited experience, Holloway cobbled together a 15-minute service for other Jewish soldiers. He enjoyed the hospitality of the Jewish communities of Japan and Korea, which he described as nice and tight-knit. So, now just to talk about when he returned to California after his service. He became a police officer, and in 1986 he married a non-practicing Jewish woman. Holloway and his now ex-wife would often laugh about their mothers. In 1990, their son RJ was born. Like his father, RJ can claim a dual heritage. So, there you have it. That is me talking about Holloway. Now I'm going to talk about Raymond Watson, who also goes by the name Two Hawks. So, let me just close this over here. So, Aboriginal warrior activist Raymond Watson is the great-grandson of Chief George Watson of the Narragansett Indian tribe, four great-grandsons of Chief Brister Michael of the Narragansett Indian tribe, and also of direct lineage of the pre-colonial Chief Kinakwii of the 1600s. He has roots out of Mississippi as well. He is the Pomham Sachem of the Meshapog Narragansett tribe out of Providence, Rhode Island, and founder of the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative. Aboriginal warrior Raymond Two Hawks founded the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative to promote cultural heritage, history, and diversity as an innovative and impacting engine for economic development and facilitation of cultural equity and social cohesion in the greater Providence area. He's actively involved in restoring and popularizing the traditional Algonquin dialects through playing with Eastern medicine singers. They write and perform their own music using the traditional Narragansett, Massachusetts, Nipmuc, and Natick dialects. Through all of his determination, Two Hawks has been able to do a lot of work with the community, local political, and law enforcement leadership to ensure that the rights of all members of the Rhode Island community are respected. And in 2017, he was involved in Kinakwii Nation launched an encampment at Potomtuck in Bristol, Rhode Island to reclaim their sacred land from Brown University. And so to continue reading about Raymond just a little bit here and the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative. He's described as a community advocate, cultural leader, business professional with over 16 years of experience in nonprofit executive administration. Watson's skills consist of program development and implementation, grant writing, motivational speaking, leadership and cultural equity consulting, community organizing and event planning, supplemented by an extensive background in cultural equity initiatives and programming in the Rhode Island community. Holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Union College in New York, a master's degree in community planning from the University of Rhode Island, a Juris Doctorate from the Roger Williams University School of Law in Rhode Island, and successfully passed the February 2023 Rhode Island bar exam. Watson is the recipient of the Rhode Island Foundation's 2016 Innovation Fellowship, a 2021 recipient of the U.S. President's Lifetime Achievement Award for Voluntary Service, a 2022 co-recipient of the Feinstein Center for Pro Bono and Experiential Education at RWU School of Law's Public Interest Award, a 2022 recipient of the University of Rhode Island Black Scholar Awards Committees, the Tassie E. Taylor Jr. Community Spirit Award, and was a 2022 mayoral appointee to the City of Providence's Municipal's Reparations Commission. So, and then there are other teammates as well. Like I said, links will be in the description so people can check that out for themselves. And so the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative is partnered with FANA, as you can see here, and other Rhode Island organizations, as well as the Rhode Island American Indian Heritage Commission. So, yeah, directly partnered with FANA right here. We have Raymond Two Hawks Watson. And then this is just from the First Republic Registrar, what I was talking about briefly when I mentioned that lawyer, Robert Orville Thompson. And so some of these indigenous nations, if you will, speak about in future videos, but just to go over very briefly, you have the Talismanic Kingdom of Atmarium, this Cherokee Nation, if you will, Dynastic Order of St. Miriam, United Kingdom of Atlantis, Worldwide, Asgardia, the Space Nation, Wurtland, Lieberland, and Kingdom Filipina Hacienda. So these fake indigenous nations or whatever are pretty well worldwide, to say the least. And some of them that sound totally ludicrous, like Asgardia, the Space Nation, or Wurtland, which is an internet-only indigenous nation. And then, of course, you have Liberland, which is actually between Serbia and Croatia, and this Filipino one here. They're all on board the biodigital convergence in different manners of speaking, and all support the blockchain. That's pretty well the common ground that they have, and they all have different coins and stuff like that. These things here, the Digital Reserve, UHTF, UDCRF, are all things that I went over in my previous video that are tied to the First Republic Registrar. And originally, I had come across this First Republic Registrar because it was tied in directly with the True North Guardians Alliance, which was mentioned last video, as well as like basically tied into initiatives of Dan Oaks or Dan Oakey or whatever his name is. So here what we have is this particular thing here. I'm not going to go over reading in its entirety because people who are dismissed from the ASMIN, which is now known as ASMIN-T, they added Turtle Island onto the acronym. A lot of the time, what appears to be like infighting is really just to distract us, and people are all playing for the same team, and this is really just best summed up through the Masonic motto of Order out of Chaos, Ordo ab Chao, if you prefer the Latin. And essentially, when these people appear to be fighting amongst themselves, it's actually part of a plan to work together. So this article, if you decide to read it, just take it with a grain of salt. So the only things to really take from this in particular is that the Ascot Tribunal was formed by combining the names ASMIN, Kinakwii, and Tribunal. Grand Chief Wabiska is the Chief Justice of Ascot. So this Wabiska Mukwa, or Zane Bell, I mentioned in my previous video, he is not the present Grand Chief, if you will, of the ASMIN. That's Arthur Jefford. We will be going over a little bit later in the video. And then, of course, as well, the Founders Council. Forget that I said Founders Council. Errol Francis, otherwise known as Star Turtle, created a website having to do with the ASMIN, and of course, as well, Dr. D, or as mentioned in this article, is Dr. Sabina DeVita. She assisted Errol Francis with this, and then Arthur Jefford mentions something of environmentally friendly, healthy living enclosures, water-based plastic, and cellular composite skins. This needs to be looked into still and will be addressed in a further video. However, he is heavily entrenched within the standardization organizations, which are what develop the technologies in the Convergence Agenda and also develop the regulations behind those technologies as well. So, Sabina DeVita was claimed to be removed from the ASMIN, but that is likely theater, like I've stated. So, all parties and names listed are definitely benefiting from this kind of confusing thing here. Like of them apparently fighting amongst themselves is just to distract us. And also as well, I just want to say that when I say that they're all working together, even if they appear to be fighting, it's no different than the band councils and these fake native nations. While the band councils and the fake native nations both support the biodigital convergence and UNDRIP as well. So here you have it. So, now to read a little bit about this Dr. Sabina DeVita, if you will. It says that she obtained her doctoral degree in applied psychology counseling from the University of Toronto in 1986 on brain allergies, a 20th century disease. She's been involved in body, mind, spirit, energy therapies for more than 25 years. She's an energy, spiritual, and eclectic psychotherapist, natural medicine practitioner, nutritional coach practitioner, aromatic consultant and practitioner, internationally acclaimed author, environmental illness consultant, and specialized in kinesiology practices and Egyptian dowsing. She's an experienced seminar leader in holistic health, having taught in many cities in Canada, Trinidad, Barbados, Hawaii, Utah, Minnesota, Southeast Asia, England, USA, and Russia. She's also had over 800 hours of extensive training with Dr. Gary Young in integrated aromatics, which is the use of essential oils in healing, and had the honor in facilitating with Dr. Young in level 1 raindrop trainings and 4 of the level 2 emotional clearing trainings with essential oils. She incorporates the latest scientific gas discharge visualization, Korean, Russian camera into her practice and teachings, representing GDV in Canada and worldwide. She's been the author of many books as well. And her certifications include Touch for Health, Professional Kinesiology Provider, Body Alignment, Educational Kinesiology, Holographic Repatterning, Thought Field Therapy, Body Talk System, and Jade Aesthetics, Electrical Massotherapy. She's been appointed as a deputy a member of National Assembly for International Parliament for Safety and Peace during the time of its original existence, which was renamed today, and also knighted as recipient Dame of the Sovereign Order of Knights Hospitaller of the Order of St. John of Jerusalem back in 2004. This is also known as the Hospitallers, but better known as the Knights of Malta. She is a member of the Knights of Malta, along with the Wabiska Mukwa, Zane Bell, former, ASMIN Grand Chief or whatever. He's also a member of the Knights of Malta, and then also someone named Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, who we will be looking at shortly. So, what is basically the DeVita Learning Hub teach energetic modalities of vibrational nature, heart intelligence through multi-diverse interest workshops, and is based on a belief and understanding of quantum physics, esoteric knowledge, and current scientific developments. And energy carries light and information. We mean like biophotonic waves. Anyway, we'll get to that. Your thoughts are linked to this invisible energy, and they determine what the energy forms. Your thoughts literally shift the universe on a particle-by-particle basis to create your physical life. The 21st century in medicine is here, where we respect the awesome innate intuitive knowledge of the body, heart, mind, and so on and so forth. And so, of course, they talk about quantum teachings and such like that. So, to move forward in talking about her further, as well as Sandra Rose Michael and this energy enhancement system. Basically, it's largely promoted by this Jason Shirka guy, but was developed by Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, who has a personal relationship with Sabina DeVita. Sandra Rose Michael is also part of the Knights of Malta. So this energy enhancement system, I'll just refer to it as EES, generates multiple bioactive life-enhancing energy fields, including scalar waves, which we will talk about their purpose, which can allow cell regeneration, improve immune function, provide relief from pain, detoxify the body, etc. Take what's said there with a grain of salt, because I will be exploring the actual purpose of scalar waves in the biodigital convergence. It's developed over 20 years by Dr. Sandra Rose Michael and uses custom installed computers to generate amorphogenic energy fields, also known as torsion field or scalar vortex, that can promote healing. When combined with light as biophotons, can interface with the body's DNA matrix, and it says to promote healing, but I'll talk about otherwise and how digital messages can be sent to biological targets. So, EES has been recognized in many medical, scientific, and professional conferences and installed throughout the US as well, and is described as ecologically and environmentally safe, used by individuals, doctors, and therapists, as well as meditation and wellness centers. So it says it's known as a fifth dimensional non-linear field as well, and it's well known in astrophysics, geology, and hydrodynamics. And so when the human body enters a scalar field, the electromagnetic field of the individual becomes excited. EES uses scalar technology to return the body to a more original and appropriate electrical matrix, if you say so. And it mentions here as well, it's about optimizing cellular energy levels, when really this can be used to target DNA and individual cells, if you will. So this is what I mean about sending digital information to a biological target. And so it can disrupt the composure of cellular structure and DNA as well. So, and it talks about its supposed health benefits and such here, so I'm just going to skip over that, and people can read the links in the description in more depth if they so desire. Jason Shurka of Unified promotes the product as well. So to read about Sandra Rose Michael, and then we're going to go over her background a little bit and her ties to Sasha Stone, who I've mentioned in prior videos. She's a doctor of naturopathic medicine with a background in biophysics, quantum, and nuclear physics, and throughout her life she's been a member of Mensa, if you say so. I don't know if that's true, because Kellyanne Wolf also claims to be a member of Mensa, but she is definitely a member of ASMIN. The High IQ Society of Individuals, scoring in the 98th percentile or higher on intelligence tests. She was born to hypergenius parents who met in the government sector of engineering physics. Her mother was a nuclear physicist, and her father was an aerospace, electrical, mechanical, and structural engineer. Worked on stealth bombers in Mach 3. She was conceived at Tesla's power plant at Niagara Falls on her parents' honeymoon, and throughout the pregnancy, her mother was working on nuclear bomb technology. So her life quest has been trying to figure out how to heal the body from negative impacts of technology. And in the 70s, she started her work in the fields of chiropractic reflexology, Ayurveda, nutrition, acupressure, ripe technology, and radionics. And in 78, she built the first scalar healing light chamber, which incorporated materials from NASA and generated scalar levels and biophoton energy. It was then that she began seeing healing miracles one person at a time. Her goal from that point forward was to advance technology to be able to help humanity on a grander scale. She's been on a mission to provide the world with her energy wellness centers to this day. Knighted for her humanitarian service, she's a Dame Commander of the Order of St. John in the Orthodox Nice Hospitaller tradition, and is the Minister of Health for the Republic of New Lemuria, a country dedicated to peace and healing. I've not looked into this Republic of New Lemuria, but I'm not sure if it is part of the, indigenous nations, so to speak. And then there's this cube as well, the EE cube. So anyway, to move forward, we're going to briefly go over scalar waves here and their purpose. So this article is entitled DNA and Cell Resonance, Magnetic Waves Enable Cell Communication. DNA generates longitudinal wave that propagates in the direction of the magnetic field vector. Computated frequencies from the structure of DNA agree with those of the predicted biophoton radiation. So to break that down, photonic means light. So the optimization of efficiency by minimizing the conduction losses leads to the double helix structure of the DNA. The vortex model of the magnetic scalar waves not only covers many observed structures within the nucleus perfectly, but also explains the hyperboloid channels in the matrix when two cells communicate with each other. Potential vortexes are an essential component of scalar waves as discovered in 1990. The basic approach for an extended field theory was confirmed in 2009 with the discovery of magnetic monopoles. For the first time, this provides the opportunity to explain the physical basis of life, not only from the biological discipline. Nature covers the whole spectrum of known scientific fields of research, and interdisciplinary understanding is required to explain its complex relationships. The characteristics of the potential vortex are significant. With its concentration effect, it provides for miniaturization down to a few nanometers, which allow enormously high information density in the nucleus. With the first introduction of the magnetic scalar wave, it becomes clear that such a wave is suitable to use. Sorry, I lost my place for a second. Magnetic scalar wave, it becomes clear that such a wave is suitable to use genetic code chemically stored in the base pairs of the genes and electrically modulate them so as to piggyback information from cell nucleus to another cell. At the receiving end, the reverse process takes place and transported information is converted back into a chemical structure. The necessary energy required to power the chemical process provided by the magnetic scalar wave itself. So essentially you can distort communication between cell to cell in doing this, and in turn actually as well manipulate DNA structures and manipulate the way cells actually function in and of itself. So this scalar waves are biodigital convergence technology, and as well they, like I said, pretty much distort the way the human body operates in and of itself. So I just want to say here that Jason Shurka also is a producer of the movie Sound of Freedom, which I covered in a couple prior videos, and many people have covered the Sound of Freedom in great depth in and of itself, but just to keep this more focused here, his background is former vice president, Signature Investment Group, a global commercial real estate company and the second largest civil engineering company in Israel. His transformation from a business executive to a visionary leader is nothing short of inspirational. Yeah, whatever. Focused on facilitating unity and wellness on a global scale, Shurka founded Unified World, a non-profit organization dedicated to bridging divides and fostering a sense of oneness amongst people. It sounds incredibly new age. Under the umbrella of Unified World, Shurka introduced Unified Healing, an initiative that stands at the forefront of alternative wellness modalities. In a short period of time, Shurka and his team have been able to establish a network of over 380 centers around the world. So, Jason Shurka's outlet pretty much has, like, he interviews people that would say wear a robe where you can't see their face, and they'll have a voice enhancer so that you can't, pick up their actual voice, and they'll be talking about things like, how they're part of advanced alien civilizations that have been watching human beings for thousands of years, and all sorts of very weird things to say the least. And in short, I just really described that as a distraction from the Biodigital Convergence. So at the heart of Unified Healing in each of these centers is the incredible energy enhancement system, and it says it enhances energy fields. It uses enhancing energy fields called scalar waves, and I already really discussed scalar waves, so I'm gonna save my breath a little bit here. But through Unified Healing, the EES is supported, as well as supported by Tony Robbins, and so on and so forth here. So to move forward as well in this Unified Healing thing, they apparently donated $10,000 to support the Child Liberation Foundation, who support that movie Sound of Freedom. And Jason Shurka was a producer of Sound of Freedom. And so basically the Unified Healing Network in and of itself, what they have done is they use this EES, and it is supported by the Child Liberation Foundation as well. And you see these things, which pretty much are like the equivalent of will save med beds. This EES is in the same family of med beds, if you hear people in QAnon talking about that sort of a thing. So there you have it. And to move forward, now we're going to go back to talking about Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. She is part of the ITNJ, the International Tribunal for Natural Justice. This is part of what Sasha Stone is attached to, as well as someone named Ciro Orsini, who basically Ciro Orsini was Sasha Stone's band manager, and he as well managed something called the Knights of St. Francis, and I'm talking about day and night when I say Knights of St. Francis. Knights of St. Francis is renamed from the Hellfire Club, and the Hellfire Club was part of what was called the Order of the Illuminati, which had different secret societies, if you will, attached to it. But the joke about the Order of the Illuminati is that it was started by somebody who's Jesuit trained named Adam Weishaupt, and so the Order of the Illuminati was just a front for the Jesuits, really. But in and of itself, the Order of the Illuminati apparently no longer exists, and same with the Hellfire Club. But if the Hellfire Club was later renamed to the Knights of St. Francis and Ciro Orsini as a part of it, then Hellfire Club never went under, and that's just a historical lie is what it is. Go figure, they lied in a historical textbook. Anyway, and this ITNJ here, which is part of what Sasha Stone is attached to, essentially they take testimonies of people that have undergone different forms of abuse and submit them directly to Interpol and the United Nations and other organizations like that, which pretty much carry on those abuses. So Sasha Stone is really just exploiting people along with Ciro Orsini and anybody else that's a part of the board here. But we're just going to look at Sandra Rose Michael, Sasha Stone briefly, and somebody else after. So, you know, she's conducted lectures at the United Nations, MIT, World Health Summit, Harvard Club, London's Royal Society of Medicine, Mount Sinai Medical School, Scalar Research Experts Conference, Tesla Tech, Regenerative Technology, Anti-Aging, Congresses, as well as numerous medical schools and ministries of health worldwide. She served on the board of the Global Foundation for Integrative Medicines as a commissioner for the ITNJ, is on the Scientific Advisory Board for American Great Health, and is global ambassador for the World Aging Council. And she's been on CNN, Fox, The Doctors, Wall Street Journal, Beverly Hills Times, etc. So, Sasha Stone, former rock musician and artist. Sasha Stone grew up in Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, throughout the War for Independence, and he established Humanitad, which is an NGO, in 1999 that's directly linked to the United Nations. And he's apparently instigated peace initiatives, if you say so, and he founded the New Earth Project and New Earth Nation, which is the world's most fully integrated movement for sustainable, sovereign, and self-determining communities. And it operates as universal trust, engaging micronations by treaty, and exists outside of fictitious enclosures dreamt up by self-serving corporate governments and institutions. So as he's talking about fictions and stuff like that, you know, he's referring to the Sister KV Trust, which I discussed briefly at the beginning of the video. However, fact of the matter is, if you're submitting testimonies to the United Nations, you're doing their bidding in just another form, you know. The regime and the resistance always work for the same people and are one and the same throughout history, as both sides of a narrative are always controlled. So, he's the founder of the ITNJ, and now to just move forward, now to talk about somebody else here as part of this ITNJ, you have this particular guy, Dr. Christopher John Cleverly. Not so clever here, even though he graduated from King's College School of London in 1988. He was called to the bar in 1990. Middle Temple, London. Holds an honorary degree, Doctors of Law, from the University of Reading. 2014, and was the youngest head of chambers in the last century. He founded and sold Event Data Correlation Limited to London Stock Exchange listed Global Gaming Technologies PLC. He has been constructing a network of blockchain groups and cryptocurrencies to aid the African farmer. Chris is chairman of Block Commodities Ltd on Next London. So there you have a link right directly to the Biodigital Convergence, as the blockchain is literally the backbone of smart infrastructure. So As well, I've not yet linked Sasha Stone directly besides through somebody of the ITNJ to the Biodigital Convergence. But in a future video, I will definitely be talking about him much further because his network is quite large and extensive. So, this guy is also CEO of Made in Africa Foundation, who started the first Africa Rising campaign, and they advised the UK and several African governments on rapid development of the continent. And he was an original advisor to Humanitad, which is Sasha Stone's NGO that was founded in 1999, interim CEO, Plants for Peace, and has been honored in UK by having his portrait hung in the National Portrait Gallery in London. Yeah, okay, if you say so. So, this article here is about the blockchain and AI, and says the cyborg revolution, how AI and crypto are reshaping human identity. Just going to take a drink of water and then I'll read this article. In a rapidly evolving world, the integration of technology into our lives has become more profound than ever before. The intersection of AI and cryptocurrency is not only revolutionizing the way we conduct transactions, but also reshaping our sense of self. Welcome to the cyborg revolution, where human identity is being redefined by the fusion of biology and technology. So, the convergence of AI and cryptocurrency brings about a new era of identity that challenges our understanding of what it means to be human. You have data sovereignty, digital evolution, and ethical and philosophical questions. With cryptocurrencies and AI, individuals can have more control over their data and financial assets. The sovereignty over one's digital life blurs the lines between our physical and digital identities. Evolution: as AI and crypto continue to evolve, we are witnessing the emergence of digital humans who exist both in the physical and digital realms. These digital identities can possess wealth, knowledge, and influence beyond what traditional human beings can achieve, and the cyborg revolution raises profound ethical and philosophical questions about the nature of consciousness, personhood, and the rights and responsibilities of digital identities. AI, once confined to the realm of science fiction, is now an integral part of our daily lives, from personal assistants like Siri and Alexa to predictive algorithms on social media. AI shapes how we interact with information and each other. This increasing reliance on AI-powered technologies prompts us to question where the boundaries of human identity lie. So you have digital footprints, enhanced abilities, and emotional connections. As we navigate the digital world, we leave behind extensive digital footprint. AI algorithms analyze this data to understand our preferences, habits, and behaviors better than we often understand ourselves. This raises concerns about privacy and the idea of a digital twin, an AI representation of ourselves. AI is not just a tool, it is becoming an extension of our cognitive abilities. Machine learning and neural networks allow us to augment our decision-making, creativity, and problem-solving skills. This augmentation blurs the line between human and machine capabilities. Then you have emotional connections. AI-driven chatbots and virtual companions offer emotional support and companionship. Some people are forming deep emotional connections with these AI entities, challenging traditional notions of human relationships and emotional bonds. Cryptocurrency, often associated with anonymity and decentralization, is reshaping our financial identity, how we perceive health. So there really is actually no sense of privacy, because essentially all blockchains are pretty much daisy chained to each other. And I say this because one person can release one blockchain product in location A, and then somebody else in location B releases another blockchain product, and they apparently will seemingly have nothing to do with each other because they're decentralized, as they say. Wrong. Through something called the Transhuman Crypto Cloud Minds, which is an article written by Melanie Swan of the Blockchain Institute, she basically says that through nodes, which are devices used to access the blockchain, whether we're talking about a computer, laptop, phone, whatever, she doesn't differentiate nodes from machines to human beings and looks at them as one and the same. So there you have it. If one human being can communicate with one another through whether virtually or in person, then two different blockchain products can communicate with one another, and they're pretty much linked. So there you have it. So decentralization, crypto challenges the traditional banking system, offering what it calls financial autonomy, and it gives the illusion, it talks about empowering individuals, but it gives the illusion of empowerment over individuals. And we're going to talk very briefly about Evolve Blockchain, which Kellyanne Wolf is the face of far later in the video, just to show you that there is nothing empowering and nothing private about this at all. It's about giving that illusion to people to sell them on this BS. Globalization, cryptocurrencies operate on a global scale transcending geographical borders. This globalization of finance forces us to rethink the traditional nation-state-based identities and consider a more global perspective on wealth and identity. Security and privacy. So the technology behind cryptocurrencies, it talks about ensuring secure transactions and raises questions about the balance between transparency and privacy and financial transactions and identity verification. Yeah, so I don't know really anything about hacking, but believe that anything can be hacked, and cryptocurrency was literally created by the NSA, so there you have it. As well, this cyborg revolution is not a distant future. It's happening now. So it is happening through these standardization organizations and such, attempting to blur the lines between what is biological and what is digital, as well as rapidly developing technologies and things such as, brain-computer interfaces and, blockchain technologies and even 3D bioprinting and such like that, which we'll be talking about more and more. So anyway, I'm going to move forward. I think I've read enough of this article. People can fill in the blanks, as everything will be linked in the description. So this ASMIN of Turtle Island website. So this is asminofturtleisland.org. There's also asminofturtleisland.com. And then you also have the ASMIN of the Boreal Forest, another website entirely ran through someone who goes by the name Kinakwii Nation, whose real name is Dr. Yvonne Fulton. I'm not too sure about the differences between these ASMIN organizations, but I'll be looking into that further in other videos. So the ASMIN T Council, in collaboration with the ASCIT Tribunal and also in collaboration with the Alliance of Indigenous Nations, are in constant developments in standing up for truth, freedoms, human dignity, helping to make a positive, healthy difference in people's lives, and world peace. And it lists a bunch of projects that they have, and then you have this Arthur Jefford guy, who's the senior elder hereditary grand chief, apparently. So just more make-believe titles, I guess. And it says that a group of clan mothers in western part of Canada have risen up in their indigenous, traditional, and cultural leadership as our environmental protectors. They're all concerned about the devastation of empire-building corporate nations, fuel oil-based economic prosperity of profits before people's safety that is destroying our living environments. The clan mothers are building tiny houses to help them in their efforts to block flammable fuel oil production distribution pipelines that lead to destroying our living environments. So we'll get to that further in another video, but what I will say is that problem reaction solution is the scenario in which these dark figures operate through. So they create the problem, we react to it, and they provide the artificial solution to it. So here in our nation, our leadership has been dedicated under our senior elder, Chief Arts leadership, who has devoted over 68,500 volunteer hours to save our living environment. He's a dedicated Anishinaabe hereditary Grand Chief and has been at the helm in steering this safe economical innovation for many years. Now we at ASMIN want the people of the world to know, as the world's corporate governments have failed to protect the people of the world. So ASMIN, being part of the Alliance of Indigenous Nations, they support UNDRIP, therefore they support the United Nations. They're not trying to do anything to solve problems and or combat corporate governments. They are actually working hand in hand with that agenda while providing the illusion of facing against those things. So it says here they're acting to stop the pipelines by stopping it at the source, by stopping the unnecessary use of unsafe flammable fuel oil-based plastics when the safe water-based alternate would be used instead. This to stop the devastation not only to our environment but to all living, breathing women and men for their health and safety. So, like I said, we'll be talking about these non-flammable water-based plastics in another video, but I can't imagine this actually helping the environment because this particular guy, this Arthur Jefford, if you will, I'm just going to scroll and show you some pictures here. So this is him with this person named Federico Fagan in the development in discussion on innovation in telecommunication, new chip developments, if you will. We're going to go over briefly who this Federico person is. He's also been with Technical Committee 279. The technical committees are basically amalgamations of different standardization organizations and committees from different countries. So, and then you have him here signing the Alliance of Indigenous Nations Treaty with European, Solutrean, Germanic, Alemannic people. And then here at this ISO conference in Europe, this person over here, Gary, I can't pronounce his last name, but in order to look him up if you'd like, he is the Minister of Crown Northern Indigenous Affairs. In Canada, since 2015, what happened was there was a large government structural change with ministries where a lot of ministries either dissolved or amalgamated together. So there are two different indigenous ministries, if you will. I'm just using that term because they specifically support UNDRIP. So you have Crown Northern Indigenous Affairs, which is what this Gary guy is a part of. And then you also have Indigenous Services Canada, which Patty Hadju leads, and Patty Hadju is part of the World Economic Forum. And then you have at this ISO Technical Committee 279 liaison Arthur Jefford, at the UNIDO with UNIDO liaison Raymond Tavares. So we're going to go a little bit over this UNIDO, but first here, just want to scroll through some pictures here. So this is Go to Innovation, which is a part of UNIDO we'll be talking about. Arthur Jefford is part of Go to Innovation. So from Spain, January 2nd, 2024, Go to Innovation joins AIM Global in shaping the future of AI and industry. So we're going to find out what AIM stands for, but I'm not talking about the American Indian movement, by the way. It's joined AIM Global, the Global Alliance on Artificial Intelligence for Industry and Manufacturing. This strategic collaboration reflects our commitment to advancing safe, sustainable, and inclusive use of AI in industry and manufacturing. Guided by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, AIM Global promotes the responsible development and deployment of AI and frontier technologies. Aligned with the UN Security General's Our Common Agenda, AIM Global shapes a digital future that is open, secure, and beneficial to all. AI technologies are transforming industry and manufacturing, offering unprecedented opportunities for increased efficiency, productivity, and sustainability. However, the adoption of these technologies also brings ethical considerations, privacy concerns, and the imperative for inclusivity. As a new member, Go to Innovation Intelligence is excited to contribute to AIM Global's mission of unlocking the full potential of AI for industry. Go to Innovation Intelligence provides consultancy services to public institutions and private companies to innovate effectively and efficiently. Through a tailored approach, the right partners and stakeholders are engaged to create meaningful collaboration and sustain deployment of scalable solutions by adopting responsible innovation and AI. A deep knowledge of standardization at international and European levels, reflecting an intensive participation in several technical committees, makes GoTo Innovation a unique partner to accelerate the positive and ethical impact of AI, anticipating and managing risks and contributing to the sustainable development goals. GoTo Innovation Intelligence is excited to join in global where forward-thinking partners collaborate to harness the power of AI responsibly, said Belen Soare, CEO. By being a part of the community, we anticipate collaborative opportunities, innovative solutions, and a shared vision for the ethical and effective application of AI to unfold during this exciting journey. AIM Global fosters collaboration for responsible AI in industry and manufacturing. The alliance focuses on research, skills development, ethical guidelines, and policy recommendations to address challenges and opportunities in the developing AI landscape. So you can learn about AIM Global at that website. So just going to show the membership here, just the partners of UNIDO. You have basically various countries and various organizations that all work on the development of AI, including BRICS Partnership on New Industrial Revolution Innovation Center. So BRICS is just Team B if Canada and the US were Team A. That's all it really is. They're both working on the same Biodigitalization Agenda, and you have various Chinese companies as well, and then we will eventually get to GoTo Innovation, HP, who make printers, and so on and so forth here. So this is just an idea, and then they're of course partnering with various branches of the United Nations, of course. So anyway, is Federico Fagan, who I was going to mention here. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly. This is who was in the photo with Arthur Jefford. He's the president of the Federico and Elvia Fagan Foundation and the designer of the first commercial microprocessor, Intel 4004. He started his career in Italy and then moved to California in 1968. He was the co-founder and CEO of Zilog, where the Z80 and Z8000 microprocessors were created. He was also the co-founder and CEO of Synaptics, the developer of the early touchpad and touchscreen for mobile devices. He recently published his autobiography titled Silicon, from the invention of the microprocessor to the new science of consciousness, in which he describes many of the interesting stories around the time the first microprocessor was designed. He was the recipient of the National Medal of Technology and Innovation in 2009. So, GoTo Innovation Intelligence. We have GoTo Innovation Intelligence is an international initiative of ISO experts to provide consultancy services and strategic advice on innovation management, sustainability, and standardization on blockchain and artificial intelligence. And then, of course, you have the advisors board here that are part of various organizations themselves, and ISO 56000 Innovation Management is ran through the Technical Committee 279 that I was talking about. The ISO 56000 is the regulation itself, and the technical committees are what developed the regulations themselves, and the technical committees consist of various standardization organizations from all around the world, and various members of those standardization organizations from all around the world. So Arthur Jefford, who has a background in the environment, in initiation, innovation, implementation, consulting, and dynamic innovation for development of environmentally friendly, healthy environmental enclosures. So that is where he has been an expert to Technical Committee 279 and worked on standards development. He's also part of the ASMIN, as we see there. The CEO of something called JIL, where he was making different kinds of insulating panels, plastic resins, and polymers and stuff like that, and environmental enclosure skins with intelligent coatings that collect solar heat, light, and magnetic fields to convert into stored power. So, yeah, it sounds like it's probably something that is made with graphene, but we will get to that eventually. Graphene is pretty well, or we'll get to that in a future video, I mean, but graphene is created through the term that's used by the UN is the circular economy, which basically, if you take the slogan reduce, reuse, recycle, what happens is basically it doesn't matter what bin you put your trash into, it all ends up in the same place, and it's all amalgamated and created through something called flash graphene, and there are various processes that create various forms of graphene. So, anyway, yeah, we can see some of these people here that are all part of the advisors board, and it of course includes Arthur Jefford and Go-To Innovation. So, just to read here, just very briefly, the Technical Committee 279 is chaired by Johan Clare, which is an AFNOR secretariat. I believe AFNOR is the French standardization organization. So you have, in particular, yeah, AFNOR. Let me scroll over it and just tell you, yeah, Association Française de Normalisation. So yeah, it's the French standardization organization, and Johan Clare is the chairperson until the end of 2024 for this technical committee here, 279. And then it says standardization of terminology, tools, and methods and interactions between relevant parties to enable innovation. So some of the partners now of Go-To Innovation, of course, include UNIDO, this blockchain.eu, 2020 Innovation, Innocentrics, Greenmark, and BPI, Ready to Innovate. So basically, a lot of if you go back and cross-reference these partner organizations to the advisors board, you will see that a lot of these people that sit in Go-To Innovation actually work for some of these organizations that are placed here. So people can do that cross-referencing if they so desire. And so you have two different people here. It's gonna go back and forth very fast, so I'm just gonna read it. So Isabel Caetano is the co-founder, ISO expert in strategic and innovation management, and then you, of course, as well have Belen Soiree, who's co-founder, strategic sustainability, blockchain expert, blockchain and innovation expert, governor of CN and CNELEC. So I believe that is one of the partner organizations here. Nope, I was mistaken by that. But if you go back to the advisors board here, you can see, for instance, here that 2020 Innovation, Rick Fernandez, for instance, is part of 2020 Innovation right here. So, and then you have this European, the CENELC, just to describe what that is the European Committee for Electrotechnical Standardization, is responsible for European standardization in the areas of electrical engineering, and together with telecommunications and other technical areas, it forms the European System for Technical Standardization Organization, and standards harmonized by these agencies are regularly adopted in many countries outside Europe which follow European technical standards. Although CENELEC works closely with the European Union, it is not an EU institution. Nevertheless, its standards are EN, EU, and EEA standards, thanks to the EU regulation over here. and was founded in 1973. And before, the two organizations were responsible for electrotechnical standardization organization here. Senelec is a non-profit organization under Belgian law based in Brussels, and the members are the national electrotechnical standardization bodies of most European countries. So you can see, yeah, several countries here. Links will be in the description so people can see for themselves. So now to speak about Errol Francis. He has this band called Tribs. He is also a member of the ASMIN, so Errol Francis goes by Star Turtle as well. So Tribs is an adult contemporary band that is rooted in R&B, blues, reggae, pop, and rock fusion. We could quickly recognize how eclectic and different our music is because of our individual diverse backgrounds. It also reflects our common values, as in we're all from different tribs, but able to come together as one unit to bring the message of love, hope, and empowerment to the men and women around the world. I hope you can join us in the celebrated Dance of Wisdom. Okay, so now to read the About Me. Spread the vibration of peace through music and songs and sounds that focus on increasing the feelings of love and peace for listeners. Yeah, whatever. So, from his early start as a teenager, learning to play guitar with his father's R&B reggae band, and then rock bands with friends in Kitchener, Errol continues to learn and develop new skills in related music industries. With over 35 years in music business, he has been both out front on stage and behind the audio board as an engineer, producer, recording a variety of projects for artists. His work has won him accolades in several areas of the music business, and he's a multi-award winner for radio and television broadcast productions in the 90s, as well as Juno Award-winning singer-songwriter and a SOCAN Songwriter of the Year recipient in the 1980s. His 1987 album Temple of Love had 3 singles which charted in Canada's top 25, resulting with Errol not only writing a Juno, he's also appeared twice on the Junos to perform songs from the album, and he's received a variety of other awards from Toronto radio stations and from Black Music Association for that album. Nowadays, he continues to create and release compelling music under the name Errol Star Francis, a conscious, diverse crossing of culture, sounds of aliveness, danceable, devotional, divine, funky, rocking, hippie, reggae stylings, plenty of pleasing sounds, all with a peaceful, loving vibration. And he's the CEO of an online spa music portal, and he's been involved part-time at Queen Elizabeth Park Community and Cultural Center in Oakville as a recording studio and digital arts technician, creating music enhancement programming and singer-songwriter and digital arts courses like 3D rendering and printing. Errol's song creation outreach program to the Halton School Board for secondary schools is a big hit with students with anxiety. Errol also gets to work with some great music organizations like Art House Oakville as a music and digital new media instructor for at-risk children and youth. I love to get with the youth to inspire them to be the best they can be, to encourage them to follow their dreams. I love seeing the expressions on their faces when they create something unique and unexpected. Right. So I'm going to show some images here. So you have him here, featured in Vital magazine, and of course Sabina here comments and mentions the ASMIN. So she says our ASMIN community. So basically confirming that she and Errol are part of the ASMIN. So this is him in Vital magazine, Vitali magazine, whatever. And so just for some comedic relief here, he's saddened apparently by Buffy St. Marie being a pretendian of sorts. So Sabina suggests getting her involved in the ASMIN, which is just kind of funny there. So now to talk about this consulting organization of sorts here, and really more like the people involved in it. So you have Michelle Elise Burnett, Métis of Ontario citizen with Algonquin roots. Bear Clan is president, and an Indigenous arts and consultancy company which helps promote and educate Indigenous arts and artists to a broad audience. She's the president of Landscape of Nations 360 Degrees, a unique national Indigenous education and tourism initiative. Art Park's Indigenous producer of arts, the creator, the artistic director of the Celebration of Arts, and the artistic producer of Art Park's annual Strawberry Moon Festival, curator and producer of the Red Dress exhibit, If Only These Dress Could Tell Their Story, and this, an Indigenous journey through the arts, all providing a far-reaching platform for the community to embrace and honor the unique heritage, diverse cultures, and unique and outstanding achievements of Indigenous peoples. She's been involved in several Indigenous public installations. Over the past few years, she served as co-advancement director and inaugural unveiling producer for Landscape of Nations, the Six Nations, and Native Allies Commemorative Memorial at Queenston Heights, which is in the Niagara region. Committee member for the Carlisle Street Public Art Project, which shows the exquisite curtain call installation created by Lily Otasevic that is proudly displayed on the outside wall of the first Ontario Performing Arts Centre and serves as a legacy project of the Celebration of Nations and the City of St. Catharines. In addition, Michelle Elise conceptualized and oversaw the building of the Native American Peace Garden installation at Art Park, the Indigenous Unity Garden in Thorold, Ontario, and produced two 65-minute Indigenous site reactive audio journeys along Art Park's trails called Her Moccasins Talk and Rekindling All Our Nations, a Journey into the Niagara Glen. So, started her career in the radio industry. After graduating Ryerson University School of Radio and Television Arts, she became a third-generation radio business owner in an industry pioneered by her father and grandfather. Later, partnering with her mother, she owned and operated the most powerful signal in the Niagara region, Spirit 91.7 FM radio. The accomplished mother-daughter team was the first Indigenous people to be granted two private broadcasting licenses in Canada. She has applied her radio experience in sales, marketing, production, and event planning to Landscape of Nations, which has been entrusted by several Niagara partners to help curate, develop, and implement Indigenous experiences, educational programs, event tours, and May I Be Consumed in Service model from her education at Ridley College as a way of life for Michelle Elise. She's the co-chair of the Indigenous Health Conference 2020 after serving 7 years as a board of trustees at Brock University and co-chairing the Aboriginal Education Council. She has been bestowed the great honor to become a board of trustee emeritus at Brock University. She serves as a board member of the Ridley College Fund USA and on the Niagara 2021 Canada Summer Games Board, where she created and chairs the Indigenous Partnership Council for the 2022 Canada Summer Games being held in Niagara. 2018, she was the recipient of Culture of Arts Award from the GNCC Women in Niagara and her success and contributions to the community. 2020, she was recognized as one of Welland Historical Museum's notable people in their virtual tour. In 2022, honored with Leadership Niagara's Distinguished Alumni Award and presented with the 2023 International Women's Day Award by the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. So, and you have then Michael Gruyich here, who was born and raised in Niagara Falls, received his BA from Trinity College, University of Toronto, and his MBA from Niagara University, Lewiston, New York. Michael and his family have owned and operated a business in the Niagara area for over 80 years. He's currently president of Niagara Duty Free, an award-winning duty-free store located at the Rainbow Bridge in Niagara Falls. Michael is very active in the community and was honorary capital campaign chair for the Bethlehem Housing and Support Services Kenmore Court building in Niagara Falls, which provides permanent housing for men, women, and families in Niagara with low to moderate income. He's a board member of Landscape of Nations 360 Inc., not-for-profit organization, and until recently a board member with Bravo Niagara Festival of the Arts in the Niagara region. Michael volunteers his time with the Lifeline humanitarian organization, helping to support orphanages, safe houses for children rescued, and homes for the elderly, and hospitals in Siberia. And then you have various other members in this roster as well. So to move forward here, just have to go through some pages of notes that I have. We're going to talk about Landscape of Nations, but first, just to go over some of these videos here, I just want to show that Michelle Elise actually endorses Errol Francis here. And, of course, he is thanking Michelle Elise for this. And then there are other tags between the two of them, so both of them have a working relationship and perhaps a friendship of sorts. So Errol Francis has performed at events of hers. So there you have it. And so it kind of puts in a question as to whether Michelle Elise is a member of ASMIN or not. I'm not sure, but I can definitely link some of the people in Landscape of Nations to her as well. We'll eventually talk about Tony Belcourt very shortly. So, Landscape of Nations Incorporated is a not-for-profit organization that creates, designs, and implements educational and expressive arts programs that convey the meaning, depth, substance, and contributions of Indigenous peoples to Canadian history and society. The organization develops projects that are intended to enlighten and transform the public's understanding of and engagement with Indigenous peoples. Landscape of Nations emerged from the process that developed Landscape of Nations, the Six Nations and Native Allies commemorative memorial, a nationally significant public artwork unveiled in Queenston Heights Park on October 2nd, 2016. The memorial inspired dynamic, educational, and expressive cultural programs intended to more fully convey the information expressed by its historic and symbolic elements. These include Landscape of Nations, Indigenous Education Initiative, Celebration of Nations, Gathering of Art, Culture, and Tradition, Empathic Traditions, Niagara's Indigenous Legacy Exhibition, curated for the Niagara Fall History Museum, the Indigenous Niagara Living Museum Tour, and numerous other programs and consultancies. So, this April person was in the last organization, the consulting firm that I looked at, as well as Michael Gruich, and then of course Michelle Elise. So, we're going to just skip ahead to talk about this Tony Belcourt guy because he is heavily invested in the Convergence. He was born in the historic Métis community of Lac St. Anne, Alberta, and Tony Belcourt's career spans over 50 years of experience and significant achievement in Indigenous affairs, the corporate, government, and not-for-profit sectors. During this period, he founded, led, and served on the boards of numerous local, regional, national, and international Indigenous organizations, including as Vice President and Managing Director of Team Products, Alberta, and McKinsey, a cooperative of 500 Indigenous artists and craftspeople in those regions, and Vice President of Métis Association Alberta, founding President of the Native Council of Canada, and he was instrumental in creating a national voice for Canada's Métis and non-status Indians, and his efforts were an important contributing factor in the Métis being recognized in the Constitution Act 1982 as one of the Aboriginal peoples of Canada. Well, that was signed to a corporation. Canada is a corporation registered in Washington, D.C., and it was basically put through via foreign monarchs' servants. So I don't understand how this constitution, if you will, can be legitimate. But anyway, Tony is a well-respected negotiator and as founding president of the Métis Nation of Ontario. He helped to achieve recognition of existing constitutional rights in the 2003 Supreme Court decision in R.V. Powley. He was a member of the Board of Governors of the Métis National Council and Métis National Council Minister for International Issues and Métis Nation Ambassador for International Issues. He participated in numerous meetings and conferences of the United Nations and the Organization of American States, including the negotiations on the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, a champion of access to and appropriate use of ICTs by Indigenous people. He was founding president of the Indigenous Commission for Communication Technologies in the Americas. So I've not yet found a whole lot of information about this Indigenous Commission for Communication Technologies, but what I will say is that he has delivered speeches at the ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, UN, and other organizations, and the ITU is the earliest that I've been able to trace the Biodigital Convergence to, which dates back to 1865. So, and as well, he is one of the principal negotiators of UNDRIP. So, this particular man has done nothing but cause devastation and contribute to the biodigital convergence in and of itself. And I will be talking about Tony Belcourt even further in future videos because his resume is quite extensive, to say the least. He's a long-standing member of the Aboriginal Education Council at OCAD University, and he received National Aboriginal Achievement Award for Public Service in 2006, received an honorary doctorate of laws from Lakehead University in 2010, and was appointed an officer of the Order of Canada in 2013. He's been carried by the pipe since 2004, now widely regarded as a Métis elder. He is often invited to present on Indigenous culture, history, and traditions, right? So, Michelle Elise definitely has some interesting ties, that's for sure. And I'm wondering if she would like to rectify this. She is definitely able to talk to me, that's for sure. And I would suggest even doing a live stream with me if she wants to address these things, because UNDRIP is not something that provides rights for people, for quote-unquote Indigenous people, if you will. It provides nothing more than confusion for people and lots of rights to people selectively, as Indigenous is not even clearly defined. So, and then as well, on top of that, you have her affiliation with people in the ASMIN, and then you have her affiliation with people that are heavily involved in the biodigital convergence in and of itself. So I would suggest educating yourself on this, Michelle Elise, because what you're a part of is not very good and not benefiting people in the slightest. Anyway, it says that Tony Belcourt has played a role in establishing a national voice for Canada's Métis and non-status Indians. His efforts were an important contributing factor in the Métis being recognized in the Constitution Act, as I said, as one of the Aboriginal peoples of Canada. It's nothing short of an act, hence why that is what it's called. And Mr. Belcourt's leadership has been demonstrated both in Canada and on the world stage. He has represented the Métis Nation in high-level talks at the United Nations and the Organization of American States, and has made presentations to the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, the World Summit on Information Society, and the International Telecommunications Union, and the World Conference Against Racism. So, all in all, even if, let's say, he went to all of these things just to specifically talk about, racism or something like this, it doesn't matter, because there's a reason why biodigital convergence organizations want people like Tony Belcourt there, because he sells out his own people. So, just to go back here, I just want to, before I even talk about this No Aki Land Trust, if you will, you have this person named Becky BigCanoe that's putting out the Ask It for Equity website. This is the tribunal for the ASMIN. So why would this particular Native woman be supporting ASMIN unless, well, she's a member herself? So Annie Bozu, hello. We are Indigenous grandmothers who are vested with the responsibility of being caretakers of our Mama Aki, whom we call beautiful good earth. No Aki and we include all lands and waters in our vast territories. As part of our mission, we are offering an avenue for reparation and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. In Canada, we are mandated to assist landless Indigenous people reconnect with the land through ceremonies, seed planting, and other cultural activities. Our corporate responsibilities include an efficient process for land transfers and tax deductions. Become a part of the important work we are doing and engage with us today. Home Gwetch. So, to go over Becky BigCanoe a little bit, what I would like to say here, so this is the board of directors. You have Becky BigCanoe, Dawn Naganosh, and Elizabeth Brass-Elson, Mary Boyden, Sonia Moladecki, and Rachel LaChance. So, and then it partners with something called the Global Indigenous Development Trust, and they also partner with this Oak Ridges Marine Land Trust, which we'll be looking at in another video, and conservation through reconciliation as well. So, to go over talking about Becky BigCanoe, it says that she has been a business owner. Just give me 1 second here to find my place. So, these are some projects and initiatives here. So, they have the Land Trust. They also have Cipher Environmental, excuse me. So with a lot of this environmental work and organizations that support this thing called climate change, what they're actually talking about is changing the environment and blurring the lines between what is a physical one to a digital one, and pretty well blurring those lines, hence the term Biodigital Convergence. So it says here, like, basically that Becky BigCanoe, it describes her as a, just give me 1 sec. It describes her as a, when you click on the people, it essentially brings up a whole page to describe them to you. So these are various people that are part of the Global Indigenous Development Trust, and some of them as well are part of the No Aki Land Trust as well, such as Mary Boyden, Sonia Moladecki, and Becky BigCanoe. So Becky has been a business owner, a sustainable house builder, a community energy planner, and an activist for water and for missing and murdered Indigenous women. In 2013, she produced a walk across Canada to bring attention to the MMIW, and the last before the national inquiry was announced in 2015. She's been an advocate for natural building and having built her own home using all natural materials. She believes that Indigenous women can play a crucial role in tackling the enormous housing problem Indigenous people face. As founder of EnviroNative training initiatives, she hopes to bring some Indigenous women's wisdom and sensibility to the issue. Becky is currently an advisor to the University of Toronto Centre for Global Engineering on Natural Building Materials and Supply Chains, as well as co-founder of the No Aki Land Trust. So I always view the word natural with a grain of salt when looking at these things, and also, in particular, this won't be the final video where I speak about Becky BigCanoe, because she as well, like Tony Belcourt, has an extensive resume and is heavily involved in the convergence here. And these organizations are, especially when talking about the environment, they're either talking about building graphene through the circular economy, which I described earlier, blurring the lines between what's physical and digital through the biodigital convergence, as that term climate change actually refers to that, or they are talking about 3D bioprinting things, which is what they call something natural, which is anything but natural. So you have Dawn Naganosh, who I went over briefly before. Dawn Naganosh of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. She is Oneida, and she's a member of the Oneida Nation, which is part of the Six Nations Confederacy, where she is Bear Clan grandmother. Dawn carries a Bachelor of Social Work with 30 years experience in the field, and her real passion is rooted in traditional medicines and the Cedar Place for the arts, where she is owner-operator. She makes her home with her family on Rama First Nation, where she is a band member. So the band councils are just pretty much one and the same as the ASMIN, supporting the Biodigital Convergence and UNDRIP. And then you have Elizabeth Brass Elson, whose spirit name is Wabiska Mayingan, which is White Wolf, and she is from the Bisalile First Nation on southern Georgian Bay, and her clan is Martin. I apologize for my inability to pronounce certain words. She's also the Union of Ontario Indians Women's Water Commissioner of the Southeast region and has participated in many water walks across the country. Elizabeth also sits on the particular First Nation Climate Adaptation Committee and is trained as a resource management technician. She spends her time creating art from objects she finds in the bush or on the shorelines and enjoys her time with children and grandchildren exploring nature. And then you have Mary Boyden over here, and she is Anishinaabe. She is of Anishinaabe and settler descent and has lived in Treaty 9 territory for almost 9 decades. She's the managing director of Eighth Fire Solutions, a social enterprise established under the direction of AMAC elders, the Traditional Elders Council, with a mandate to encourage excellence in Indigenous-led land reclamation strategies. Passion is facilitating respective Indigenous ways of knowing. And then this Sonia Molodecki here is a Ukrainian-Canadian lawyer, Mother Earth advocate who spent more than 2 decades working in human rights, international law, corporate law, and Indigenous community building across 10 countries. She is president of the Global Indigenous Development Trust, which is an Indigenous not-for-profit and registered charity that she's led for 10 years, and she is a published author and speaks around the world on topics related to building healthy and thriving futures. First language is Ukrainian, and she grew up with very strong roots in her culture, traditions, and with matriarchal grandmothers that taught her to carry deep love and respect for the land and the natural world. And then you have Rachel LaChance, who proud wife and mother to her Algonquin Métis family and has background in natural resources, food sovereignty, and as a land-based skills educator. She recent management role with Keepers of the Circle saw over $900K invested into the development of food forests, youth programs, regionally adapted seed bank initiative, and extensive food sovereignty curriculum. She specializes in funding acquisition, personnel coordination, project development, management, and project delivery. She's completing her studies as a clinical herbalist and lives off-grid with her husband and 4 children in the west of Timmins, Ontario, where they operate their small ecological farm, Waxwing Commons. So I already looked at the partners, which the partners of the No-Aki Land Trust, which include this Global Indigenous Development Trust and Conservation Through Reconciliation. And so then to basically, it says that it is, let me just go back one slide here. Creating traditional knowledge with modern technology for a new way forward, and through its extensive global network brings leading edge technology, indigenous knowledge, and best practices globally to support innovation locally. So think globally, act locally is a very typical globalist phrase, if you will. So then now to talk about this Jerry Asp here, an elder of Talton Nation and chair of the board and co-founder and CEO of the Global Indigenous Development Trust. Says he's committed to enhancing the quality of life for Indigenous people through the creation of new business opportunities and development of skills and capacity in the community. President and founding member of the Tahltan Nation Development Corporation, and the largest native-owned and operated heavy construction company in Western Canada, building into a $60 million corporation with 8 divisions and 29 joint venture partnerships in the mining industry. Today, the Tahltan Trust Fund holds $120 million for future generations from these opportunities, and he's credited with taking their nation from 98% unemployment to 0% unemployment through equitable partnerships and business opportunities. Jerry's success includes negotiating the first impact benefit agreement in BC with the Golden Bear Mine, first native-owned independent power producer contract with BC Hydro, and a new health facility to serve the Dease Lake area. He's also applied his leadership skills to serve the public, was instrumental in building Aboriginal Toolkit for Mining to Fruition, which in 2007 won the International Award as the best Aboriginal mine training document in the world from UNESCO. Jerry was a founding member of Canadian Aboriginal Minerals Association, where he served as vice president and was appointed to sit on the Yukon Mining Advisory Board in 2011, and in 2018 was appointed to the multi-stakeholder advisory body on responsible business conduct by the Minister of International Trade. Jerry has been awarded the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada Skookum Jim Award, which recognizes Indigenous achievements in the mineral industry. Received the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal March 5th, 2013. The Frank Woodside Award from AME BC, the Inspired Award for Business and Commerce, and in 2020 was inducted into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. As founder of the Global Indigenous Development Trust, he actively shares his knowledge and experience with communities across the Americas, Africa, Scandinavia, and Australia. And he started his career in journalism, has worked at BC Hydro, and has started his own business in communications, planning, and marketing. He's also played a role in advancing fledgling First Nations Fiscal Management Act. And so, what I just read there about starting a career in journalism, I'm talking about Keith Matthew. He's worked at BC Hydro, started his own business in communications planning and marketing, and he's also played a role in advancing fledgling First Nations Fiscal Management Act. And after leaving BC Hydro to move home in the early 2000s, he was elected to Chief and Council, where he was assigned to the Economic Development Portfolio. And during his time there, he helped negotiate agreements for the $7 million heli skiing lodge with Mike Weigel helicopter skiing fiber agreement with West Fraser and Canadian Hydro's Bone Creek Hydro and independent power production, and 2007 impact benefit agreement with Kinder Morgan Canada. He's active in his community and volunteers with the following organizations: President of the Community Futures Development Corporation of Central Interior First Nations, Director of this particular First Nation Health Board, and Director for the Tulo Center of Indigenous Economics, Thompson Rivers University, Chair of that First Nations right here, Resources Ltd. and Advisory Board for the First Nations Infrastructure Institute, and he was the former president of the Aboriginal Sports and Recreation Association of BC, former president of First Nations Confederacy of Cultural Education Centers, former director of Center for Indigenous Environmental Resources, and former president of CANDU. So the Community Future Development Corporations all work on smart infrastructure, essentially. So that's pretty much what they do. They are responsible for the convergence in and of itself, too. So, and then to read about this Maneri Ushigua over here, traditional healer and leader of the Sapora Nation in the Ecuadorian Amazon. The Sapora Nation is recognized by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Maneri has been a key figure in the indigenous movement of Ecuador as the vice president of CONE, the National Indigenous Organization of Ecuador, from 2013 to 2016, and as president of Sapora Indigenous Federation from 1999 to 2012. And she's participated in international events like COP21, UN Climate Summit, and the UN Universal Periodic Review of Human Rights, raising awareness about the threats to the homeland as defender human rights, and so on and so forth. She's a co-founder of NACU Center, creating a new economic model in the Amazon. And then lastly here, well, not lastly, but Patricia Fortier here is a retired Canadian ambassador and diplomat who has served around the world in various capacities, including Washington, Chile, UN, India, Dominican Republic, Peru, Bolivia, Kenya, Zambia, and most recently as Assistant Deputy Minister responsible for security, consular, and emergency management at Global Affairs Canada. And then you have this Jamie Miller guy who's CEO of Biomimicry Frontiers and Natural Infrastructure Advisor. I'm going to look into this guy a little further in another video, because the word biomimicry in and of itself, mimicking what is biological, is something perverse. So his nature-based designer and expert in biomimicry, biophilia, and ecological engineering. He is focused on a response to a changing climate, an experienced public speaker with a demonstrated history of consulting with industry leaders skilled in sustainable development, resilience, urban planning, sustainable business, environmental awareness, and systems thinking. He also has a Doctor of Philosophy and focused on environmental engineering from the University of Guelph. In 2019, Jamie started the World Biomimicry Commons, a biomimicry education and incubator platform that was named a world-changing idea by Fast Company. He also founded and was president of Biomimicry Frontiers, an award-winning sustainability consultancy. He has been co-director of OCAD's university's biomimicry program and is currently global director of biomimicry at B&H, a globally renowned architecture, design, and consulting firm. And he's trained a number of elders, and Janine Benyus, the founder of Biomimicry, on the deeper principles of the practice. So basically here, just to talk about this thing, biomimicry, you're pretty much talking about 3D bioprinting everything is what is really the goal here when they talk about biomimicry. So it says regenerative development calls for built environment design, construction, and operation approaches that do not degrade social and ecological systems, but let me find my place. Regenerative development calls for built environment design, construction, and operation approaches that do not degrade social and ecological systems, but actively regenerate them, with net positive performance outcomes. Within infrastructure, existing industry approaches focus on improving sustainability and resilience through progressive reductions in negative impact. To shift beyond damage reduction toward regenerative performance, it will be necessary to harness new and innovative technologies, design, and engineering approaches as they emerge. The field of biomimicry looks to biology and ecology to identify natural models that can inspire design and engineering solutions. Despite increasing biomimicry research, Inquiry into infrastructure opportunities for biomimicry has been limited, and the potential for biomimicry to support regenerative performance and infrastructure has not been explored. This paper uses systematic literature review to identify applications of biomimicry in built environments with a focus on the potential for infrastructure applications. The paper identifies the need for further investigation into system-level biomimicry opportunities for clearer articulation of sustainability and resilience benefits and for greater alignment with broader industry and global trends. This paper is relevant for practitioners, academics, and government agencies looking to leverage emerging technologies and innovation to achieve project and organizational sustainability, resilience, and regenerative performance objectives. So then as well, it says in biomimicry, it has been proposed that there are many regenerative models that have already emerged within living systems over 3.8 billion years of evolution on Earth, and that these models can be investigated and assessed for their applicability to design and engineering. Within the field of biomimicry, it is important to address the distinctions in terms which then provide clarity for the structure and scope of systematic literature review. As outlined in this particular standard here, biomimetics, terminology, concepts, and methodology. Biomimicry refers to the philosophy and interdisciplinary design approaches taking nature as a model to meet the challenges of sustainable development, social, environmental, and economic. So, standardization organization, the committee is Technical Committee 266, which is headed up by the Chinese Standardization Organization. This is the biomimetics, and it says standardization in the field of biomimetics that includes but is not limited to methods and technologies in biomimetics such as biomimetic materials, processes, and products incorporating the most recent results of R&D projects, classification, definition and development of terminology in the field of biomimetics, description of the potentials and limitations of biomimetics as an innovation system or sustainability strategy, and description and standardization of methods in biomimetics, biomimetic materials, processes, and products throughout their entire life cycle. So that biomimetics organization that Jamie Miller is a part of would have had to have worked with the standardization organizations, of course, in order to build different technologies and such like that. So just wanted to read about that through the ISO's perspective. So this right here is conservation through reconciliation, which is one of the partners, partner organizations of the Noaki Land Trust, just like the Indigenous Development Organization I was just talking about. So I'm not going to go over the board of directors, but they're all, into the climate change nonsense and stuff like that. But, you have this Isaac Olam Foundation and the Indigenous Leadership Initiative and the University of Guelph as their three prime partners there. And then some of the other partners include the Environment and Climate Change Canada, Parks Canada Agency, Canada Parks Council, Art Gallery of Guelph, various universities like Dalhousie. We have the David Suzuki Foundation, of course. Sustainable development is written all over David Suzuki. You have the Sustainability Network. You have something called Plenty Canada. I just want to go over very briefly because I went over in a prior video. This guy, Carl Dockstader, is part of Plenty Canada, but it's led by this Algonquin guy named Larry McDermott, and everything they do revolves around climate change nonsense, of course. I'll leave links in the description for people to watch that video. That's where I talk about the friendship centers and their connections, such as to the World Economic Forum and that sort of a thing. So yeah, various universities here, like the University of Ottawa, University of Alberta, Sustainability Network, and of course you see here the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council Canada, the SSHRC, which pretty much I've seen partnered with various things that have to do with projects that revolve around Native people, or things that revolve around housing initiatives, and they also work quite closely with Policy Horizons, which is the face of the Biodigital Convergence in Canada. So here, I'm just going to read this article here, a little bit of it, which I've read in various videos, the Indigenous Perspectives on Biodigital Convergence, because in and of itself, this article is wrote by someone named Suzanne Brandt, who works for the First Nations Technical Institute on Tyendinaga, which is in Tyendinaga, which is Mohawk territory. And as well, she has done some work for Policy Horizons as well. So this article here, it uses the Great Law of Peace, which is a Haudenosaunee concept, belief, spiritual understanding that has to do with basically preserving the land in and of itself. And so one who preserves the land is somebody who has a good mind, if you will. And so with the Haudenosaunee perspective here, basically the Great Law of Peace is used to support the biodigital convergence in the case of Suzanne Brandt. So the Haudenosaunee, formerly called Iroquois or people of the Longhouse, are a confederacy of 6 First Nations, which is Mohawk, Cayuga, Oneida, Onondaga, Seneca, and later the Tuscarora joined. They're found in New York, in upstate New York, Quebec, Ontario, Wisconsin, and Oklahoma. So to go over the aspect that I wanted to read here, it says something about Mama Day's words. So Mama Day's words evoke the Haudenosaunee principle of good mind, derived from the Great Law of Peace. The good mind occurs when the people put their minds and emotions in harmony with the flow of the universe. The good mind confers the ability to make a sound judgment for the welfare of the broader Haudenosaunee society, and to connect good mind to land, and to the Haudenosaunee, the good mind and land are inseparable, for neither is possible without the other. Furthermore, rightly assert that where one is has everything to do with who one is. What we take from all this is that the full expression of our humanity is only possible through intimate connection to each other, to territory, and to various natural cycles shaping existence. So then it says here, Policy Horizons Exploring Biodigital Convergence paper identifies an important policy question. Could traditional resource-based competitive advantages fade? And it suggests that decentralized food production through synthetic biology could lead to the ability to create food and engineer meat without the need for arable land. So that's supposed to be, when it says arable land, it's talking about like rich soil and stuff like that, the ability to grow stuff. So basically what they're saying is, in order to preserve the land, let's 3D bioprint everything. And it talks about decentralized food production, so they would be using the blockchain even keep track of inventory in that case. So that's what this perverse article here by Suzanne Brandt is really about, is preserving the land, 3D bioprint everything, is pretty much what this all comes down to. So her version of the Great Law of Peace is definitely something very twisted, to say the least. And then I just want to go over the last aspect here, is to talk about Kellyanne Wolf, who is a member of the ASMIN and supports something called Evolve Blockchain, which is like a direct democracy project of sorts, where this Evolve Blockchain, if you will, is promoting a direct democracy, and you can essentially do different things like vote and stuff on it and create bills and that kind of a thing. And so the people who have designed Evolve Blockchain are this Richie Marquis here, Damian Spalding, and then Drew Zero Illuminatus, whose name is actually Andrew McPherson. So that's just to basically explain who these people are. I've done so in prior videos, so I'm not going to go over everybody's bio there. But the whole point is that about this direct democracy app, Evolve Blockchain, is to digitalize government while giving the illusion of putting power into the hands of the people. And I also have several live streams that have been done where I have questioned Josephine. Where Josephine and I have actually questioned Kellyanne Wolf, and also James Scott and I have as well, and she hasn't really been able to give solid answers. And so, in a nutshell, I guess I'll leave those lives in the description or in a pinned comment for people to look at. But it says here, global shift to digital government accelerates. AI, digital IDs, and open data driving sustainable development. Governments around the world are increasingly turning to digital platforms to enhance public service delivery and address various global challenges. According to the UN's E-Government Survey 2024, the shift from traditional paper-based systems to digital systems is becoming more noticeable as government bodies search for more efficient service delivery and increased accessibility for vulnerability populations. According to Vincenzo Acquero, Chief of Digital Government at the UN's Department of Economic and Social Affairs, governments are under growing pressure to digitize public services due to the complex nature of ongoing global crises, such as those related to food, fuel, health, and sustainable development. Survey reveals that digital transformation has accelerated worldwide, with AI, cloud computing, and digital ID systems playing key roles. Top-performing countries are noted for their work in online services, transparency initiatives, and citizen participation efforts. However, the report also emphasizes challenges like the digital divide and the need for improved ICT infrastructure in developing nations. Benefits of e-government, it says here, by using digital platforms, governments can streamline their operations, making them more inclusive and responsive to citizens' needs. This information is seen as vital for achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which focus on promoting economic growth, reducing inequalities, and ensuring environmental sustainability by 2030. When you read those Sustainable Development Goals, just picture it to mean the exact opposite of what it is they're saying, pretty much, because anything the UN touches ends up turning to dust. So, nations in the digital governance space are adopting a variety of technologies, including integrated digital ID systems and AI-powered public services. These countries have also embraced data analytics and the Internet of Things to improve sectors like public safety and waste management. Moreover, open data platforms are increasing transparency and fostering greater public trust in government institutions. However, countries that struggle with digital transformation face persistent obstacles, particularly in terms of bridging the digital divide. As highlighted in the UN survey, the divide is most pronounced in rural and low-income areas where access to technology is limited. Addressing this challenge requires political commitment, investment in digital infrastructure, and improvements in legislative frameworks governing technologies like AI and cloud computing. Regional and international cooperation are also crucial for creating an integrated digital economy and driving broader development issues. And then it says, in addition to enhancing public services, mention that e-government initiatives also play a role in strengthening institutions and combating corruption. The use of AI and open data to monitor and deter corrupt practices aligns with broader efforts to promote transparency and good governance. Public-private partnerships and investment in ICT infrastructure are instrumental in these advancements, according to Acquero. Strategies to overcome these hurdles include expanding broadband access, promoting public-private partnerships, and investing in digital skills and education. These initiatives will not only support the adoption of e-government services, but also contribute to financial inclusion, particularly for underserved populations like women and youth. So, almost done. The World Bank echoes these sentiments, it says here. And the World Bank's report emphasized the role of electronic signatures, and then e-signatures are becoming mainstream business tool. So, pretty much here, just to say now one final thing. So, I just want to say here, these gold stars, if you will, contribute to something called the task-based economy, or also known as the token-based economy, or next digital economy. So, basically, those are aspects of Facebook that are Web3, if you will, Web3 based, meaning blockchain based. So those gold stars represent at this current time a sort of dollar value that you could kind of like cash in, if you will. So in doing this, Jason LaFacci here, who's also a member of the ASMIN, is contributing to this task-based economy, and other people like Ron Clark and stuff like that do that as well with the stupid gold star thing. So I've seen some posts where Jason LaFacci has talked a little bit about the biodigital convergence. Not too much depth there, but what I will say is if you are going to talk about it, then don't practice it. And I understand that being online in and of itself is helping create that digital twin, if you will, but using a platform to get a word out there is one less of an extreme than actually attaching gold stars onto your platform. So there is some food for thought for you, Jason. And also just for everybody here, I just want to say that we have to first and foremost protect the water, and natural springs is what we have to do. There's findaspring.org, which will show different natural springs around the world. Not all are mapped out, and some of them are on private properties. So what I will just say is that first and foremost, we should be protecting the water together, and then also we would need to form ethics committees in order to rid ourselves of smart infrastructure and to stop this biodigitalization agenda from coming to fruition. So I want to thank everybody for watching this, and if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me directly on Facebook at Matt Unseated, or in the comments here on YouTube at Matt B Unseated. So thanks everybody for watching, and take care of yourselves.